Okay, good evening all. Welcome to the BATC Thursday Evening Net. Good to have lots of people on. I've just increased power. I was just using a lower power to hold the channel. Parish notices, of course, CAT 20 on Saturday. We hope to have the stream on and Zoom on from 9:30 for a start of things at 10 o'clock. We'll certainly be on by 9:45. And don't forget also that on Saturday evening we'll be having a special net. So please can everybody else who's on this evening try and get on Saturday. Hopefully get some more people on and just go through one over each. That's Saturday evening 8 o'clock. And as if that's not enough, Sunday is a activity day, so try and get on the air on Sunday. So a good ATV weekend. Without further ado, I'll pass it round to Rob M0DTS from GHGKQ and the BATC Net.
Right, let's see if this works. Unfortunately, I forgot to do something. There we go. Oh, everything's broken tonight. Lovely. Yeah, still having a few problems. Still trying to sort out the second encoder box, and the audio is a bit over the top as well. Interesting things on my transmit. So right, 1920 by 1080. Oh dear, this isn't going to go well. Right, go with some video. It's trying very hard. Yeah, this isn't good, is it? Apologies for the quality anyway. I'll try and sit pretty still, fix it for next time. So this week, I'm trying to think what I've actually been on with really. Mostly still been doing quite a bit of code and tweaks for KM, building that stuff up. There'll be a bit of info on Saturday, of course. Been building up another mini tuner. Wow, basically because I've got not much else to show, I'll have to show this one. So that's one of the Mark 1 boards with the Cerit tuner added. So built that up today, and that will be going into KM very soon. Yeah, I'll have to fix the video for next over. So that's all modded up there, ready to go, and that seems to work okay with the Ryde. Still having a few issues with the Ryde this end, but I think that's probably self-inflicted things. It's just laid on top of the bench and wires hanging out of it and things like that, so got a bit of work to do on that. The only other thing I've been playing around with this evening is trying to find a nice fix for the HDMI encoder box, these things, for the line in level. So at the moment on KM I've got a just an inline attenuator for the audio levels, because it's far from line level. It's probably more like electret mic level or something, and I have noticed it puts 2 volts on either output or input, whichever way, on the pins. So I'm not really sure what that's all about, so trying to figure out whether there's a nice mod to do to attenuate the level and remove that bias that's on there. So if anyone has encountered that already, let me know. That's about it, I think, for this one. We'll see if there's anything more for the next over. So let me just double check who that goes round to. Jim, G0DQH. Round to you, M0DTS.
Okay, I think I'm transmitting. Just check the audio, which is, it is. Good. Okay, good evening everyone. What am I doing this end? Trying to get to grips with this little beast at the moment. So having a few problems, but I'm sure we'll get there in the end. And I'm sure it'll work as well. Mo and I went to Tyneham Village in Dorset weekend before last, and we took some video of the village. For those who haven't been there, you need to check before you visit. I'm not going to say why, but you've got to check before you visit. Okay, these are the videos. I'm no David Bailey, so I'll try and put some voice on it as we go along. The village was evacuated in 1943, and the villagers were never allowed back. So it's been like this all that time. So I'll be, oh gosh, I'll get it right. There we go. I had this perfect the other day. It's a series of videos that I took with my small camera, so I have to sort of move from one to the other. So it's being preserved. They have got solar panels and a wind generator on one of the buildings to run heating for the church, which will be gas. So there you go. And the next one. So bear with me. As I say, I'm no David Bailey. I'm going through each one as I remember taking them. It was a brilliant day. We were on number 3 there when we arrived, and by the time we left, the whole car park was full. Probably about 200 people. Quite amazing. As I say, it was an absolutely brilliant day. Lovely and sunny, and quite warm as well. There's the wind generator on the back of that roof is are the solar panels. So move to the next one. I don't think I would have liked to have lived there. There was no running water, only on one building. So we'll get into the interesting bits in a second or two. The stable block, which is actually showing now, is actually in better condition than the cottages. I think I would have preferred the stables, to be honest. And 20-minute walk down the track, you come to Wheelbarrow Beach, and it's absolutely brilliant. So it'd be lovely there in the summer.
From over here as well.
And the last one, there were 6 cruise ships anchored off. You can just about make them out there. And I was on maximum magnification as well. So, and according to my wife, a few more arrived today as well. So there's a few off of Bournemouth as well. So that's it. Just go back to me, and then I'll call it quits. So sorry to bore you, but with the videos, but I hope you enjoyed them anyway. But there you go. And next one on the list is G0MJW.
Okay, hopefully that's enough. Just mute myself. Good evening, everybody. G0MJW. Hopefully transmitting the picture now. Same issues with Rob for trying to transmit too much resolution in not enough bandwidth, but there we go. Anyway, just a few things to talk about today. One is that you might notice that the view is somewhat different because I'm using a different camera. I'll come on to that in a minute. And how it's being driven. The other thing I was going to show is the old camera is displaying the new board, which is now being crammed into a old Vortex Star receiver, and it just about fits in that, which is fine. When I put the lid on there as a test, it did get very hot after a while, so I'm going to have to put a small ventilation fan in it just to make sure it doesn't get too hot. Sitting on the bench, it's fine, but in an enclosed box, it does need a little bit of cooling, so it's useful to discover that. And the height is just about right, so there you go. Okay, now let me just go and collect the camera, because what I was going to show is firstly, point in the right direction. This is what I'm using at the moment. I'm just using one of those cheap GoPro clones, which works reasonably well. And for those who've heard the saga of the non-delivery of the HDMI capture card, well, it's arrived at last. In fact, that was the one I ordered second, which arrived first, but they both arrived on Tuesday. And I come with a manual, of course. For those of you who don't read Cantonese, it says HDMI manual and HDMI video capture underneath, and that says enjoy the vivid world. My Cantonese isn't that good because the second one came with a manual in English. And the curious thing is, the second other one is grey. Maybe you can't quite see that, but that's grey, and that one is black. So, interesting. I've not tried this one yet. They were both advertised as working at 4K, but don't. I noticed it's USB 2 this one, USB 3 this one though. I can't remember what the other one was. I'm not going to unplug it because it's going to mess things up. But Yeah, interesting. Anyway, so that's what I've been doing, putting things in boxes, messing around with HDMI capture dongles. They are £10 and down on eBay, at least they are at the moment, and they seem to work really well. They're not designed to go with the ports down there, so please don't hassle Dave to get him to support them. That's not what they're for. They're for the PC and for getting the video from this sort of action camera into the computer, which is what I'm doing. Anyway, okay, that's enough from me. There are a lot of people on, so go to a test card, and I think it's Jim, G7NTG. Next, G0MJW.
I think some of you might be receiving me. Okay, let's just knock off the audio this end so I don't deafen myself and get lots of feedback. Yeah, good evening, and thanks Mike. I haven't looked into that side of it yet, and I've been quite busy working on various PAs. Finished off the 23 Sems one and started work on some more 2.4 gig ones. Basically they're 150 watts, but I've just managed to find some 250 watt boards, old Nokia boards I believe. So if anybody wants a monster PA, just get in touch with me, let me know. My email's on there, but for those of you who don't already know it. And yeah, so that's taken up a lot of my time. The biggest problem I'm having is finding suitable driver amplifiers, and I've been using some MW71C chips for various frequencies, experimenting with them. Taking the chance and buying stuff from China and hoping that they're not all counterfeit and that some of them are going to work. But always a risk you take with this sort of stuff. It's all very well with the big power amplifiers, but you need to drive them with something to make them run from a Lime Mini, or even worse from the Atom Pluto, which does require a lot more power. All a bit of a challenge, but all good fun. And today I programmed a Ryde card for George, G4PAV, in Irchester, not far from me, and found him a load of parts for his mini tuner. So he's hopefully going to be receiving on a Ryde very soon. He's halfway built it, so it's coming along nicely. Anyway, enough of my waffle. It's round to John, G7JTT. So this is G7
mucked up, should we say. But anyway, so that was that. So the microphone I'm chuffed with, to be honest, and it means now no headphones are required, etc., etc. Right, now the main thing I wanted to show tonight was for Bernie. Right, make sure I don't drop too much stuff. Right, I finally managed to find all my bits and pieces. So this little thing, which it's just a little LED with a little pick in there, and in a minute you'll see it start doing its business. Actually, I don't know if you can see that or not. Oh, there you go. So that used to be something I used to use, chuck it down the end of the garden and test everything with. So that's quite useful. My first transmit was this jobby. So you've got, I don't know whether you're going to see down in there. No, you're not really. But anyway, there's a lens on the end, and what you've got at the back there, you've got an adjustment which moves the diode in and out. The idea was that's a beam expander effectively, so you can adjust once you've got it on song. You can bring the beam in tighter. I think it's a 5 milliwatt red LED, red laser that's in there, and the way it all worked, it was very Heath Robinson, to say the least. It required some elastic bands, which rotted unfortunately, and the idea was that the elastic bands went round there and camped that together, and then there's a screw on there which basically pushed that. So you did your original on the tripod, and then you could fine tune it with that, and then there's one that does the height as well. So that was the original one, and the big problem we had with that was that because even with the beam expanders, it was incredibly difficult to line up at any real distance. So this was Mark II. Now this is typical of me, it's proper bodged. I don't do things properly. Hopefully that's showing up all right. So you can see the 5 milliwatt laser in there, and what you've got in there, if I get some light on it, I don't know where that's going to come up. Just about see it. Right, can you see those two little things at the top there? I can't do it. Anyway, there's two bits in there, and what they are, they're robbed out of CDs, and they're the actuators from CDs. So what I've done, I've actually stuck two little mirrors on there, silvered mirrors, and the laser comes out of there. It's this first mirror. It's reflected off the first mirror onto this mirror. And what you've got is two mirrors. One moves in the horizontal position and one moves in the vertical position. And the idea was that I've got a switch on there which would do that with the vertical. So you've got line effectively, and then the other one would do the horizontal. And the idea was that you would going, turn it around until someone shouts they've seen the red, then you'd stop, you'd fine tune it on the left and right until they get the brightest point, and then of course you turn the pulse off, or the vertical scan, and then eventually bring it up on song. And it used to work absolutely brilliantly. I've had 60 plus kilometers on that, and there was plenty of room for it improvement. So it was mostly CW. There is some voice, but it's the original copper's an amazing thing. We all use it in microwaves, but actually in optical stuff it's really good as well, because that used to fit into my telescope. So before I had the mirror that I've got over there, I used to just stick it into my telescope, and that fitted in there quite nicely. And it's all copper fittings, and the beauty is that everything's screened in there, other than the front obviously, but all the amplifiers and stuff all are screened in the back. It's only the detector that's at the front of it. So there we go. That's all I've got to show. And I'm glad I found it all. And it all works still as well. I was all chuffed with that. Mind you, I had to figure out how to do it. So anyway, right, round 2, Noel, I believe, G8GTZ, G7JTT.
G8GTZ. Evening all, and all very interesting. Glad to see people are still busy. Really haven't been doing that much this week. I sat here and worked out why I hadn't got much radio to report on. Well, I suppose I have, but not much television to report on. We actually went out a weekend and did the 24, 47, 76 gig contest and also 122 activity day. So that was quite good. Managed the best DX of 17 kilometres on the Australian units, 2 Australian units talking to each other with big dishes on, which was pretty good. Although even I find it hard to explain that we couldn't make contact because we couldn't align the dishes until the sun came out, and then I could use a mirror to flash across so the other guys could see where I was. So basically we were using optical to align the dishes for a 122 gig contact. There's no logic at all to this, and we were using 2 meter handhelds as well for talkback. So you then have to ask your question, why bother? But yes. Anyway, 122, that was good fun. The other thing, as Dave mentioned, I must admit I'm putting in a lot of effort into Cat 20. It's very interesting. Once you start to work on it, you realise actually it's one thing having a weekend away, networking with everybody, talking to all your mates, and then presenting a few talks and people listening to them. That's great fun, but the production value's a lot less than actually when everybody is sitting down in front of their computer watching what they expect to be a fairly high quality production. And so there's an awful lot of effort going into Cat 20 to try and make sure it's going to be reasonably slick. But as I say, far more effort almost going into it than it would be if it was if we were meeting up in the local village hall and just having some interesting talks. So a lot going on there, and if that isn't enough, I've actually got the decorating season is upon us, and I started on 2 rooms at once. So got 2 rooms mid-flow on decorating, plus we're renovating the back garden, so I'm completely digging everything out in the back garden and starting afresh. So that's probably why I haven't done too much TV. I'm just trying to think if I have done any TV. I don't think I have. No. But I'm using the Pi 4 with the Pluto, and that's a very good plug for Cat 20. Dave will be talking a lot more about the Pluto, which really does seem to be the poster child at the moment. With you can do wonderful things with it. The SATSGen software is incredible, and of course you've got this business of the 5th harmonic that the Langston microwave transceiver and Dave's signal generator means that it works on 10 gigs. So there we are. Right, round 2, the newcomer on the block. GI4DOH, G8GTZ.
One, two, three. Yep. Thanks very much, Noel, for that introduction. It's not quite my first time. I think I succeeded in the last time I nipped in was all it took to get my picture in Radcom. That was a lucky one that. So there've been a few reasons for not joining in the net. Thursday night's not always a good night, but I've had a few problems and I've changed a few things, and getting everything back together and working has been a bit problematic. But there now the last few days, I've had a few sessions just watching myself on the TV. I hadn't realised what a grumpy grumpy old sod that I look. I definitely need a haircut. I didn't have hair before lockdown happened, and look at me now. So I've been playing around. I've got one of the Nokia amplifiers. In fact, I've got two of them, but the one I've been working on is the one with the screw down components on it, and it's a nice one that came complete with
Yes, okay. Evening everyone, and evening to you, Richard. G4HJW in Cambridge. I didn't put that on the card that I've got up now. Richard, you lost the audio. Oh, let's have some video. Yeah, G4HJW again. You lost audio when you put your pictures up, and I'm using vMix as well, but I'm very new to it. I've only been on, I think this is my third session on here, and I find it a little bit frightening, all the things that can go wrong. But I notice it often does on the net, so you may well be in good company. I'm just assuming everything's working, but I've got 3 PCs working, so I can see the audio is okay there on vMix. It might want a bit more level. Oh, I'm only 4 dB. Oh, okay, James. That's oh, I see. Ah, better than the rest. That's very good. I can turn the power down if people like. Yes, okay, Dave. I'll put it on to you next. Those pictures were very interesting, Richard. Thank you for that, and certainly thank you to you, John, for all your optical stuff. I thought after last week I don't bring any more optical stuff in, because I thought, well, I'll get thrown out before I've even started. So what I did do, I brought in some a little 70 meg transmitter, which is somewhere, but I may have difficulty. I can't do much with this camera. Well, I'll see if I can get a picture of it just very quickly. It's not going to show up, is it? Because it's out of focus when it's that close. And the history on that was 11 years ago. I did some work for a company on a 75 meg transmitter that the ground marker system used at airports, and that seems to have become obsolete. And the guy had this idea that it would be good to do a transmitter and put audio remarks on it, things like if it was foggy and the pilot was too far one side of the runway, to tell him. And I built that, and that worked really well. It's 5 watts, far too much really for that use. And then the banking crisis happened, if you remember, 11 years ago, and I've wanted to move, it's AM by the way, sorry about that, and I moved it onto I moved that onto 70 megs last week, so I'm just trying to do that. That's my little bit of work. I'm going to use my pad. Oh, evening to you, Martin, as well. I'm pleased you're able to make it. And yeah, I was impressed you're using lasers, by the way. I wonder if those mirrors, I'm not really up to date with lasers. Do you end up, once you're reflecting, does it tend to make the beam diverge unless the mirror is perfect? I don't know about that. I've only ever used LEDs. I felt a lot safer with them, and pointing just was so much easier. But I like what you're using, particularly those actuator, the motor-driven actuators. That seemed like a good idea. But I found with, oh, if I go back to that card, you don't see much on it. But my light box was the one closest on there, and you can just see at the back there is what the a plastic tube that the transceiver, which is in an aluminium tube, a reasonably close fit, pushed in. And I was talking to Barry, 8AGN. He was over near Holme Moss, which is 60 kilometres away, and I didn't even get the transceiver near the white plastic tube that you can just see protruding at the back, and I could hear him, but he was using a flat light, so he was running 15 watts. And I always found that if I took the transceiver out and just looked through the back, I could generally see the person at the other end, so I never had a really weak signal coming my way, given that a flat light at 60 kilometres is very bright. So I'll go back to face. I don't talk any more about that because there's not been TV, but thanks ever so much for bringing that up, John. I was ever pleased to see that. And the GoPro clone, that's interesting as well, because this camera I've got here is a very cheap PC camera, and I've put it a long way away so I could try and get reasonable focus on everything, but it means everything is so static, and I do need to, like those who was it put the videos out? Was that you, John? I think it was. I really ought to be able to do something like that, because I'm soon going to get to the point where I don't have enough to report without extra backup, if you like. And Richard's problem with the audio, since I'm using vMix, is going to worry me. Quite a lot. I already need to find out how I can put text on a picture, individual pictures, which I'm sure that must be able to do. And I got flamed this afternoon. I was just testing all this gear out, and well, I got flamed twice, but the first one was reasonable. I won't go into details, but the second one, I had somebody kept coming on saying I should be putting my call sign in DATV Express. He kept on saying that. I just said, well, I don't want to, as I find that fairly ugly. So I don't know if there's a need to do that. Somebody tell me if there is. And I think I'm going to shut up at this point. And right, Dave, it goes on to you.
Okay, thank you, Bernie. Okay. Right, mute that. That's brilliant. G4HJW and the BATC Net G8GKQ. Just having a look at what MER I'm putting out. Fairly high compared with everybody else. Don't see any reason why not to, though, at the moment on this bandwidth. Really interesting to see everybody's activities. The Ryde, one comment for you, Rob. I'm not sure whether you've got the same problem as me with the Ryde. Is I've had some EMC problems. I had the HDMI lead to the back panel routed very close to the tuner lead, the tuner aerial lead, and I couldn't understand why the MERs I was getting out of it were so low. Reported after a ride, there's a story, but it turned out to be interference from the HDMI getting into the tuner lead. I'll turn my audio down. I'm getting too much banter here. Let's turn that down. I hope that's a little better. So it was interference from the HDMI going straight into the tuner input. I've rerouted some cables and it's within about 0.2 of a dB now of what I'd expect. I was looking at everybody's MERs this evening. Strongest was Mike on 9 dB MER. Let's see, I'm down about 8.2 now. Weakest was John, who's still struggling with his feeder, I think, on 4.8. But everybody's above 1 here. Bernie, 75 megs transmitters. Yes, I've listened to those a few times. I've missed them a few times as well, but that's another story. And what they're getting at with your ident is putting it in the metadata. So in DATV Express, you can actually put it in the program, put your call sign in the program, and that's what people will, and Ofcom, we think, would prefer to see, so that it's always there and you don't have to put a call sign up. It still says your call in your on your signal, Bernie. In fact, it's still up on my mini tuner. It says your call. Richard, yeah, you lost audio when you switched source in vMix, so we saw some very nice pictures, but unfortunately we lost your audio, so we'll have that again next time, please. Noel, you can't say you haven't been doing much. People will see on Saturday how much you've been doing, that's for sure. Tyneham Village, yeah, within the danger area. You probably drove past one of the high points I use for contests on your way up there, Jim, when you were going up to Tyneham Village. Okay, and what I've been doing here, writing presentations for Saturday, doing a little bit of work on mini tuner, on Portsdown, looking at whether we can drive an ADF 5355 signal generator, and that is working. Needs a little more work, but that's soon going to be released. But apart from that, getting ready for the weekend. Really nice to see a good number of watchers tonight. Don, Dave, ADM, Tim, David, GZH, and Sarah. So really good to see you all on. Right, back to the top of the list then. Over to Rob. M0DTS and the BATC Net G8GKQ.
That's reset a bit high, isn't it? I'm not doing very well at the moment. It's a bad night tonight. Right, let me just adjust the power level there. There we go. Right, okay. So I think I've actually got everything back to normal now. Hopefully, I'm back to the original quality we used to run on the net night. So should be better. Yeah, I've dropped the resolution. Should be back to normal now. Right. God, there was quite a lot of things to comment on there, wasn't there? So Saturday, yeah, I should be on the net after the BATC event. Hopefully that'll be good. I imagine quite a few people will be around. Sunday portable. Was there any plans for bands or anything like that, or is it just generally activity day? I haven't really made any plans yet of what I'm going to do, but I might get out portable. We shall see. I'll see what sort of interest there is up here. What else? Lasers, yeah. I wouldn't worry, Barry, about talking about other things than TV. It actually is quite a nice thing to have other content, because generally all we talk about is TV and stuff for TV, so other content is good. No problem with that. Yeah, I'm not keen on the laser situation either. I would imagine you can work very long DX once you've got things lined up, but it's just don't really like it. LED is pretty safe in comparison. And them flat lights are pretty bright, mind, but it could be could be nasty. Ryde, yeah. Maybe, Dave. I'll show you what the arrangement is on the bench. Well, on the bench, it's on top of the rack, which is hosting KM stuff and test mode, but the Ryde is basically, the mini tune is sat in there, and then the Ryde is sat, or the Pi is sat there. Well, I'm using 2 HDMI outs. Whether that's causing any problems, I don't know. Like as I said before, I may be causing issues myself by running the EasyCap for our analog input at the same time, but CPU wise it didn't seem to be anything going on. But the times when I have noticed it crash is when I've actually stopped transmitting for some reason. So Yeah, this is the only other thing. This is the encoder box. I'll try and... Oh, that's not going to go well, is it? Let me see if I can hold the camera in a little bit better location. Or a bit still. Right. I'll try this. It'll never be still, but yeah, that's the line input at the back there. This is the HDMI H265 264 encoder box. Comes in through here, and then there's two. You can see two traces come down here. Well, you can't. I could probably zoom in a bit more. But yeah, there's two traces that come down sort of here. They're the left and right audio channel in, and then this one's like a supply that feeds like 2 volts onto each side, which I assumed was some sort of bias heading down towards the chip to kind of bias up the ADC for some reason, maybe. I'm not really sure, but when I followed it down, the audio comes all the way down here, round through. Did it go under that? No, it goes through a layer there, and then re-pops out again here, then follows round the bottom, all the way around here, and then through 2 capacitors right at the edge of the chip there. So yeah, there's 2 capacitors in there, and that's where the audio left and right channel goes into the main chip. So it still picks up quite a bit of noise. At the moment on here I've got resistive attenuator fitted in there in place of the components that were there. It's actually a mess, so I'll probably not show it very much, but it's reducing the audio level down quite a lot, and that's what I'm running this evening. It's quieter than what KM test stream is running. It's a lot quieter than that, but I'm trying to get it better. But, may actually bypass all that tracks routing through the board and just put a bit of twin core coax across to directly to the chip and see whether that bypasses some of the noise that it's picking up off the board. So we shall see. But yeah, I think that's it for me. It's going to be a late finish on the net this evening by the looks of things. So back round to Jim, I think. Yeah, I would go in on that mic, but I've had lots of problems with the audio coming and going on HDMI, so I'm just bypassing it, going on line in. And I'll explain the reason we do the audio on line in on KM on Saturday. So there'll be a brief explanation of that anyway. But there we go. So, yep. Right. Yep, bound to Jim. G0DQH, M0DTS. Have the test card back up. There we go.
I take it was me next. I actually didn't get a lot of that transmission at all, and like a lot of people tonight, I'm afraid I've missed quite a bit. My signal with me is about 3.5. Most people's tonight were below 1, so there is a real problem with my dish, I think. But it always happens when the weather's bad, have you noticed? So we've got to get out there in the rain and do it. Anyway, I'm going to disappear. It's nice to see everyone on tonight. Well, from what I could see anyway. But I'll try and get on Saturday evening. Okay, next one on the list, please, from G0DQ.
Okay. Do a next here because I'm cheating and going on H265. There might be some audio. Good, there is. Let me move this off so I don't cause issues, but there you go. Right, good night, Jim. I think the problem might well be water that's got onto your feed. I have a very high-tech feed that I use. So I'm just using it from a different angle, but I think I'll probably be better off from this direction. My radome is a plastic bag, and the reason it's a plastic bag, apart from the fact that they're cheap and easy to replace, is that it's quite a long way from the lens and also from the potty plate. And if you get any water close to those elements, it can either detune the transmit side of things or detune the receive side of things. And it can have quite a severe effect, several dB lost. So that may well be what's happened. It's got water on it. Another possibility, of course, is the wind has blown it around, and because the beam width on 2.4 gigahertz is 4 times what it is on 10 gigahertz, it might well be off, far enough off on 10 gigahertz, but not far enough off on 2.4 gigahertz to make a difference. So it could be that. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you get it fixed, and we'll see you next week. But I don't think I've got much else to add, apart from the GoPro clone. They're quite cheap, but they're not ultra cheap, and they produce really quite good video in terms of the quality. But I think you've cottoned on to the thing that I cottoned on to with the C920, and that's basically that everything is in focus with these lenses, pretty much. So all the way from, right up there. That's not quite in focus, but what's that? That's about 4 inches away. To infinity is in focus, and that's very unlike the C920, where everything from 4 inches to infinity is out of focus, and anything close is out of focus as well, because it seems to focus somewhere else. At least that's my experience, but maybe I'm being a little bit cruel. But it's a great camera, but its focusing is not great at all. So this is it now, zooming in. And you can see it takes a very long time to come into focus, assuming it does come into focus. And that's not really ideal. And sometimes it hunts, but its video quality is absolutely excellent. Anyway, the reason there are 2 connectors in there, by the way, is one is the USB, just providing the power. The other one is the HDMI out, feeding into said dongle, which is working very well, and it's been working pretty much reliably for the whole evening, and did yesterday as well. Of course, I've already taken this one apart to have a look inside. And it's incredibly nicely made for the price. It's got a metal case to it, which is really good, and they seem to be quite nice. I don't know why they're only £5 really, or £10 rather. Or I think JTT found them for some ridiculously low price. But there you go. Okay, not a lot else to add. I'm not using the Ryde today, by the way. I'm using Tim and Brian software on the new BATC receiver, and a VLC. So it's not actually displaying on the screen. It could be over there, but it's not. It's just sending VLC to my computer, and that's really quite good. Yeah. So Rob, this has got a fisheye lens, and you're not seeing the fisheye effect, are you? Which is curious, huh? Hang on a minute. So I am using a filter, and I'm using a fisheye filter which turns a normal camera into a fisheye lens, but it's running in reverse. So if I turn it off, you'll see actually it is a fisheye, and things start to get a bit bent. I've actually got it in narrow angle mode, not wide angle mode at the moment. It goes a lot wider than this and it gets a lot worse. So that's in the mode that is, you can hardly tell, can you? That is fisheye, and the correction turns that off and corrects it, and that's something OBS does. So that's quite useful. So yeah, GoPros without the fisheye lens. I don't think you can get them, but you can compensate for them. So there you go. Right. Sorry, I'm waffling on, and I shouldn't be doing that really. So 7-3 everyone. I guess this is probably my last over. And speak to everyone on Saturday, I guess. I'm looking to have a QSO with G8 GKQ on Saturday morning, which will possibly last till lunchtime. Right. Whose go is it next? Yeah, the correction is reversed. That's the point, Rob. The correction is reversed. So you can change again. Maybe I should bore you very slightly to show you what you can do here. But you can do all sorts of strange things with this filter. And maybe I've gone a bit too far with that setting at the moment. To correct it. But it depends on how you've exactly got it set, so it's probably about there, might be about the best. It's difficult to say. You have to look at vertical lines and horizontal lines and things at in the distance. But you can actually correct for it. Okay, back to the test card. G0MJW.
Okay, sorry, I tried to see if I could squeeze a bit more out of it, but unfortunately I couldn't. Right, a couple of things there to say. One, yes, lasers totally get that they're not that favourable at the moment, but this was probably 10-15 years ago I was playing with this, and that was pretty much all we had back then. So I'm not getting sound. Is there no sound? 1 2 1 2. Oh, I've got sound my end. Oh, okay. I don't know what it is with sound, but it seems to be a curse for all of us, doesn't it? Yeah, so basically the lasers were all we had back then. There wasn't the LEDs that you've got nowadays. We did do some work with some LEDs. In fact, the thing I showed the other day for cloud bounce, we used that because it was much more wider and stuff. But on all the lasers I used, I did use expanders on them, so they weren't none of these little pinpot sort of pointer type things. They all had various expanders and stuff. So usually they were at least 2 inches or so wide at source, and anything up to a couple of feet wide by the time it got to wherever it was going. To Bernie, yes, the mirrors are again, I miss this place immensely. The University of Southampton used to have this shop called the Forum Stores, and I've mentioned it several times, and I mean, all these boxes that I built stuff out of, they all came out of the Forum Stores. And the thing is, you used to be able to get bits of cuts of PCB as well. So all my front panels are always PCBs. So because it was easier than getting bits of aluminium and stuff. So, but the mirrors came out of a piece of equipment they had there, which it was a headset that they used. They had two cameras looking at your eyes, and it was used for a project they were doing where people were driving, and they wanted to see what people were looking at as they were driving. And the mirrors in this particular thing, they're only about 10 mil square, I suppose, but they're proper silvered mirrors, perfectly flat, perfectly mirrored. So no, you don't actually get any effects by bouncing it off of the mirror. But it was the thing, I suppose, really was the biggest issue back then, was the pointing. So I fully understand what Noel was saying earlier. It's we used to go to Ditchling Beacon, and the other lot used to go up to Ashdown Forest, and that's not massive distance. I can't remember what it was, 20, 30 kilometres, something like that, whatever it was. Sorry. It used to be incredibly difficult, because even with the beam expanders on, the divergence was so narrow. I mean, as I say, at that distance, you was probably only a couple of foot, maybe a foot or so in beam width. So it was ridiculously tight getting these things. So yeah, I think the LEDs with the Fresnel lenses will probably be a lot easier to use. For Noel, yeah, with the RS side, you can't see it. So maybe a small laser on top, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, you're back to lasers again, aren't you? So maybe an LED on top or something might help with sighting these things up, maybe. Yeah, it was good fun back then. Right, one other thing before I jump off. We've had a little friend on a satellite for a couple of weeks now. If you look to the left of where we are, it's about 10.8 or thereabouts. There's a tiny little signal, a couple of dB above the noise. Just seems to be a carrier. It seems to vary a little bit in strength, but it also occasionally just jumps frequency. So it might just jump to the left, to the right, tens of kilohertz, whatever it is, it jumps. Doesn't appear to be any modulation on it. It just seems to be a steady carrier. So not quite sure what that is, but it's been there for a little while now. So anyway, okay, right. I don't think there's much else. Oh, I need to say that yes, I'll be around on Saturday. I've got to go work first. I've told work that I will be breaking off to do the session with Colin, etc. I'm hoping to get to see all of it if I can. And then 2 weeks' time, I'd disappear off the face of the earth. Unfortunately, the other second part of the job that I do goes live in 2 weeks' time. So you may catch me occasionally in the afternoons, but weekends will be non-existent for me, unfortunately, from now on, for at least the next 3 months. So not particularly happy about it, but work's work, and under current situations, it's beggars can't be choosers, etc. So there we are. Okay, right, round two. I'm guessing it's no, Noel's gone, so I'm lost now. Who's next? Richard, sorry. Right, round two, GI4 DOH, not DQH, G7 JTT.
Hi, hello again, everybody. I think I should be here. If I just get tuned onto my own signal. Apologies for the audio earlier. That I had thoroughly tested everything, including the slideshows, but of course, it didn't occur to me that I would want to talk over it. while I was doing that, so slap on the wrist for being stupid on that one. But really I was just doing a quick summary of the Nokia amplifier, fitting it into a box with an Arduino to display the temperature that it reads off, because it has the I2C temperature sensor on it anyway, and also I've got a little RF measurement board, although that's not doing too well at the moment. I think it needs to be screened within the box. And I've got sort of fan control based on the temperature, and the fans just come on full blast at 40 degrees, but it doesn't get much warmer than that, and run about 9.5 amps. And then the picture of the dual feed was just showing a little cover that I've put over it to stop the rain, because it rains every day here, and when you get big drops on it, it stops me getting a strong enough signal. Noel's gone, so it's a bit late now. I'm just going to say I do have a Raspberry Pi in a box here, Raspberry Pi 4, ready for use with DATV when I get round to it. It's one of the other many projects on the go. I do have some slides of the Pluto. Somebody mentioned, Noel mentioned the Pluto earlier, and somebody else I think said they were going to get round to actually getting one going. I decided to put mine in a little rectangular box, and because it's slightly oval shaped, I filed the edges off it. Now it is a multi-layer board, and I'll elaborate on that story some other time. I'm not sure whether I can make it on Saturday night. I'm tied up on various things on Sunday, so I'll catch up with Cat 20 on YouTube as and when it becomes available. But thanks very much, guys, for the net tonight. It's been great to get in on something like this. I think it's probably only my second time. Things are a bit more stable. It's just operator error in the no sound earlier, and I'm not sure whether I said it when I was working on the slides. Mike, thanks for the tip on the cameras there, looking at the price of the C920. I'm looking for a cheap alternative to get another angle on this place. And James DQH, again, I don't know whether I was showing the slides when I said I used to live in Poole. I worked for Plessy for about 10.5 years, so I know Twynham well, and Warbarrow Bay and Lulworth Cove, places like that. And also, John, and what you're doing there, I worked with electro-optic countermeasures for quite a while as well. That was one of my other specialities, and it's a whole new ball game that you're obviously having fun there, and the more you get into it, the more you'll find that you can do, and it's quite amazing what use a laser can be put to. So wish you all 7.3s. I'll try and get in on Saturday night. If not, I'll try and try and keep Thursday nights free, and I'll see you all again. So best 7.3s until next time. This is GI4DOH trying to work out what to do next. Just put the test card on for a second.
That's unusually strong for me. I'll bring that down. No, I'll leave it there. I'm not normally that strong, just to make sure I'm coming through. Oh, I'm not sure I'm locked up on that one. Oh yeah, I am there. Okay, sorry for the delay. I'll go back to that one. Well, I wonder. Oh, still on the test card. Okay. Richard, I wonder if you know the person I mentioned, you zero RPH. Given the work you were doing, you may well know him. Or you were doing, because that's what he did as well. Well, let's go to a picture, although I'm going to be reading from the notebook because I have so many things. What I really forgot to do is Jim, you mentioned that MC71C and then all the extra bit chip. That's interesting because I've got a few of the PAs that came from Swindon and they've got those on, but most of my units are 1.82 gigs, so I thought, well, I'll give that 30 dB amp a try, and it works okay at 2.4, but it has a very strange effect which I've seen on 2 now, and that is the gain starts at about 25 dB, and then as the thing warms up over 5 minutes maybe, it comes up to full output. Now I wonder if you've had, or anybody else has had the same effect. I don't know why it's doing it, I don't know what that time constant is. It's within the chip, and obviously you can't get to I think there's 3 stages, isn't it, in that chip. You obviously can't get to the interstage matching on them, but I don't know what it is that's causing that change of gain so slowly. I was going to use them on a beacon and it was fine on that, so I think whether it would last the test of time on 100% I don't know, but I wasn't needing the full output on that. And yeah, was it I think it was Mike and Noel mentioned about the call sign in the metadata. I didn't know anything about that, and I obviously don't mind being told, but the ridiculous thing was the chap who was on the other side of the channel, I'll not say any more than that, he was just so persistent. He was just how not to do it, you know. And I was only putting that test card up that you see now, so it had the call sign on there, so I just didn't waste any time with him. The other thing I did, I was straddling 2 channels, 2 125 kilohertz kilosymbol channels. I mean, there's nobody much on, and but that was a reasonable thing to say. That was G8HKN, was it? But I didn't mind that one because his comment was very reasonable. But this other guy just couldn't stop saying it. I gave up in the end and went in. So a good example of how to do and how not to do things, I think that was. Yeah, well, when I worked Barry a couple of times with this light transceiver that used the LED as a detector, on both occasions I was at different QTH each time, portable, but they were both about 60 kilometres. And that first time, not the one you see on that picture with Richard, beg your pardon, it was amazing. I went with, I think you all know Kevin, AAF, sorry, from the Finningley Club. We went out to this place and we had a cup of coffee. It was quite early in one of the cafes. We came out, it was still very early, lots of light, and I hadn't even set up, and up came Barry's flat light, and I mean it was incredibly strong, incredibly powerful, and it was nowhere near, it was only vaguely dusk, so far more power than you needed over that distance. And I certainly wasn't having a go at you, John. I was really pleased to see those pictures. If I had a reservation, it would only be with myself using a laser, and if you see all my gear, it's all Heath Robinson really, and that comes out of being inherently lazy, which is just one of those things that you know, if it's in your nature, you have to put up with. Oh, back to the text. Yes, thanks for the comment. I think Mike, I think you said that, did you? About the 2 ways of putting it in on vMix. I will have a look at that. When I first came on a couple of weeks ago, I'd only just got vMix working about a week before, and I was on information overload. So I've really needed these 2 weeks just to sort of cool down a bit. But I'll go back to that tomorrow, I think, and have a look. So thanks for that tip. And the GoPro and the Chinese version, I suppose, you got me interested until somebody mentioned the Mike. You mentioned the fish eye lens on it, but I love that correction. That was a really good demonstration, showing the overcorrection and then the undercorrection, as you didn't have any, and that was a really good thing to see. And oh, Rob, yes, thanks for being very generous and saying you don't have to talk about TV. That made me feel a lot better, because there's so little I really can say anything about. It's not something I've ever done a lot of, which I've mentioned before. So yes, oh yes, John, I should have mentioned this before. When you talked about your little friend, which was that carrier, I thought you was talking about the station who had flamed me on the BATC text, but you didn't, which is a shame. That would have been a nice story. Right, I'll wish everybody a good night, and presumably, Dave, you're now going to draw things to a close. And I can't do, as I said, I can't do two things at once. I've got to look. GHGKQ, good to meet everybody. Oh, I'll try and get on Saturday night as well, and I look forward to seeing. I registered because, just out of courtesy, as you were saying last week, I probably won't be on Zoom, but I'll certainly be watching everything on the stream. That's certainly true. So I'll see some of you Saturday, and then everybody else hopefully next week. So good night from Cambridgeshire. G4XJW, putting it over to Dave.
Okay, from G8GKQ. Yeah, I wondered if Bernie was going to drop carrier there, but did in the end. Good transmission from you, Bernie. Thanks for sorting out the call sign there. Right, I'll close the net then, as we're short on time. The three things to say. There will be an engineering link running, hopefully using QO100, so on Saturday. So you may be able to watch some of the proceedings on this frequency on Saturday. Don't forget to come up on Saturday night, please, at 8 PM, same as this. And all are welcome. Don't have to be UK based. Anybody can come up on the net, not even BATC members. Just like a real cat will let anybody in. And lastly, the carrier on the satellite. I noticed it just dropped briefly there, John. No idea what it is. I wonder if you can hear it on the on your local downlink, or is it possibly an artifact out of Goonhilly? And that's all from me. Good night all. Thanks for a really interesting net. See you on Saturday. G8GKQ QRT.